Good morning, everybody. This is now the 5th lecture on chordates, vertebrate diversity, and now we're moving on to vertebrates now, hey? So we're done with the protochordata, now we're moving on to the vertebrata group. Please take note that we're looking at, do you guys prefer the lights on or off? Please, can you execute that request in the corner? Lights, please. Okay, so this is where it is in your textbooks, page 331 to 336. You've got to do that side as well, I think. Yeah. And then 293 to 299 in the old one. All right, where are we? Where are we? Let's just get the pen going. So we've done urochordata, tailed chordates. Cephalochordata, hair-developed chordates. And now we do vertebrata, which is in between. Okay, that's the subphylums. It is a monophyletic group. It has one ancestor, one common origin. Okay, that's the theory. It includes all 5 chordate features. All 5 chordate features. What's going on? Try again. I think it's because of the walking around. These sensors are a bit touchy. Can you try again? Yeah. What else does it have? Yeah, it's the sensors. I think one of you guys, can you go and turn off that side as well, please? Yes, I'm getting frustrated with that laptop of yours. I don't know what's on that laptop. I wish I could say, turn it around for me. Nice. Okay, turn them off. I can't see from here, it's too far. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I want to know what's on that laptop. Try again. Okay. So it has the 5 chordate features. Okay, 5 chordate features. We're going to go through them again. And additional novel characters. They have myomers. Remember? Myomers is the chevron-shaped muscles that this vertebrata group all includes. Paired sensory organs. They have gills during some part of the development, vertebrae, and a cranium. What is a cranium? It's a protective feature around so it's our skull, but for other organisms it's not necessarily made out of bone. But it is a protective feature around the sensory organs in your head. Okay, cranium. Okay, that's why it is alternatively known as craniata. And these are some examples of our cranium, our head, and a bird's cranium, a bird's skull. Alternative name for the subphylum vertebrata is craniata. It refers to the brain case made out of bone or cartilage. Doesn't have to be out of bone. Okay. They are generally larger and more active than protochordates. I mean, that's obvious. The vertebrates dominate the world, hey? In terms of our size and our ability to use the environment. There are some massive invertebrates like dragonflies, but you can't compare a dragonfly to an ostrich. Modifications of the skeletal and muscles it allows us to have increased mobility and speed. Okay, so the whole activity, the whole position of vertebrates in the food web, in the ecosystem has shifted because of these abilities. Higher activity and size is required for these specialized structures. Our activity and our size requires these structures, and those structures give us the ability to locate prey, capture prey. It improves our ability to digest different materials, and that as a result gives us higher metabolic rates. Metabolic rate is how fast your metabolism is running. So because and most of the vertebrates, or a lot of our more developed vertebrates, are warm-blooded, our metabolism has increased even further. We have wonderful abilities to live and utilize the world around us. Okay, and these are all characteristics of that opportunity. What are some of the key adaptations? We have a musculoskeletal modifications. So we're referring to muscles and our skeleton, our structures that the muscles are attached to as well, and that gives us abilities. We have an endoskeleton. Some things have an ecto, like ecto refers to outside, endo refers to inside. So we have a skeleton on the inside, okay, which does not occur in any of the earlier chordates. Okay, that gives us an almost unlimited body size. Relatively cheap building material because we don't have to get rid of this ectoderm, this skeleton on the outside that we keep on having to get rid of. We don't have to do that. Relative to exoskeleton of arthropods. Okay, and that's the arthropods. They have an exoskeleton, and whenever they need to grow, they have to get rid of the first one, and then the new exoskeleton is soft, and they use water pressure or something to expand the skeleton so that it's a bit larger, and then they grow into that. Do you know how that works? So think of a crab and a crab's shell. His exoskeleton is on the outside, so he can only grow into the size of his shell. So what does he then have to do? He has to get rid of that whole shell. What a waste. What a waste. He throws the whole shell away, and then his new shell is very soft, and he has the ability to absorb water, and he pushes the new shell out. And he pushes the new shell as much as it can go, and then he can grow a little bit more. And then he grows into that new space, and then he has to get rid of that one as well. That's how they grow. It's crazy. Where we have an endoskeleton on the inside, and we can just grow and grow. You guys know, look. Okay. My kids have got a name for my stomach. They say, hello Dad, hello Hendrik. Almost unlimited body size, relatively cheap building material. The notochord is replaced by intervertebral discs, okay, especially in mammals. So we are changing, and those intervertebral discs give us a new type of flexibility. So we're talking about utilizing our environment and the features that we have to optimize our environment around us, flexibility. And by having these individual separated vertebral discs, now we can really use our environment. Because beforehand, like in the protochordates with the notochord, they've only got lateral movement. Now we can start moving dorsoventrally as well. You see that? It's changing our ability to utilize our environment. Okay, neural spines, processes, dorsal projections on the vertebrae. This is now the neural spines on the outside of each vertebral disc. Here's an example over here. These little processes that come off the neural spines, they help for movement. They also help for additional attachment of different structures. So it's, again, just helping increasing their ability to utilize the environment. And that is very important for muscle attachment, guys. Our bones. Do you guys know that there's a difference between men and women and how rough guys' bones are? Do you know that guys, especially around their pelvis, have got very rough pelvises with nodules? And that nodule allows us to have better attachments for muscles. So it's not fair. When you talk about guys and girls competing, it's actually not fair. Guys have an advantage because structurally their pelvis and their bones are more nodular, and that helps us to attach more muscles to our bones. Girls are smoother because girls carry babies. You see, so girls are smoother. That means that guys have got an advantage from a muscular perspective. So some girls think, I'm going to build and I'm going to improve my muscle size as much as I can. I'm going to compete with guys. But you don't have the attachment places on your bones. You understand that? Anatomically. Okay, and think of the other animals. We have bones with attachment points. Some of these protochordates and other organisms don't have them at all. That's why they don't have the ability to do what we do. Next, let's look at our musculoskeletal modifications. Now, all of them are endoskeletons. The first type of endoskeletons and the development with our internal skeleton was that they were all cartilaginous, hey? All cartilage. Later, we started developing bone, but all of it initially was cartilage. What does it allow you to do? Fast growing, cartilage grows very quickly. Cartilage is the stuff in your nose, guys, and your ears. That's cartilage. That's the same thing that's between a lot of your vertebrae and things like that, a lot of your bones. You have cartilage. On the end of a chicken bone, that's the cartilage. Okay? It is flexible. Can you flex your ears? You can. It's flexible. It's elasticity. It's the first ideal skeletal framework for all vertebrate embryos. Okay, first we develop cartilage, and then a lot of the cartilage is replaced. And we're going to talk about what replaces the cartilage. Okay, adult lampreys, sharks, and sturgeons, which is a freshwater fish, all have cartilage. No bones. Sharks, no bones. Okay, what about bones? Now with our higher organisms, we have bones. What does that include? Extracellular matrix. So first you have the cartilage, and the cartilage is replaced with bones. And collagen is a protein that is part of your connective tissue. That is what is used to provide the foundations for you to form bones. Okay, so it's important that you know that it's extracellular, multicellular matrix, and collagen is the building blocks that allows you to do it. Then you have this hydroxy apatite. Yeah, I pronounced it earlier. Hydroxyapatite, which is a combination of calcium and phosphates. You know calcium and phosphates, and people tell you that when you want to help build your bones, you need to drink milk. And that is a source of calcium. So the calcium that you need, also some vegetables, hey? Some vegetables you need are full of calcium. So this is the building blocks, this hydroxyapatite, which is based with calcium and phosphates, which is then what builds on top of the collagen, which gives you the strength and the structure. It becomes osteocytes. They're the precursors. So those are your bone precursors that become bone. Okay. So that's what happened. That's the major difference. And that's something that is characteristic of the more higher developed vertebrate group. And we're going to go through those one by one to talk about them. The uses were, so bone was not only used as to help you with your endoskeleton. What else was it used for? It was used for protection. If you're going to build this hard, bony structure, why don't you use it for protection? Something tries to bite you and it doesn't have bone, but you've got a bony plate around you, it can't bite you. You're with me? A hagfish has got no bones, it's not even jaws. What's it going to try and do if it tries to bite you if I've got a bony structure around me? It's like giving me a kiss. He can do whatever he likes. Do you understand? It's very useful. Locomotion. What about movement? This is where we talk about internal skeleton, endoskeleton, and you can use it for your muscle attachment. It can help you to move. Homeostasis. Homeostasis is the term used to say that you need to balance the chemicals in your body. And what's useful is the calcium and phosphorus, importantly, was stored in the bones, and it's available for your body to use when you want to try and improve your metabolism. So bones are very useful. They help you with, that's why if people start to starve themselves, some of the diseases like anorexia, your bones actually get brittle because your body is starting to take all of the minerals out of your bones. You understand? It's starting to use the minerals out of your bones. That's called homeostasis. Homeo is the balance, internal balance of your chemistry. Okay, adaptations. So you've got musculoskeletal modifications. The exoskeleton in early chordates. Exo is on the outside. Remember, it's starting to be bony plates. So the ostracoderms is this example here on the left, which is an anapsid. It looks like a type of fish. This is an early jawless fish, and it used to have very hard plates, bony plates on the outside. They're extinct, by the way. And then you also had placoderms, is another early jawed fish, so fish with no jaws. You can see he's got no jaws. And the theory is that he used to hoover up food. This is an early type of jawed fish, which is also extinct. We only know that they existed from fossil records. And they had hard bony plates on the outside. By the way, guys, do you know that some of the bone is replaced by rock, but the structure of the bone is still represented by the rock? So you can tell that it's bone because of its structure. So that's how we know that part of its external body was made up of bone. Okay, that's how we do that. Bony plates on the skin. Those bony plates come from the ectoderm. That's where it originates from. And they later evolved or developed into other appendages like feathers and fur and scales. Okay. None of them in early chordates, but most chordates have them. So from your ectoderm, now we're talking about your skin. Ecto is outside, derm is covering. Outside covering is skin of an embryo, and you can think of the different types of external coverings that we have. We have scales in fishes and a lot of keratinized structures in higher animals, and that's where you get your things like your feathers, your fur, and your scales. Please don't confuse ectoderm, which is outside skin or outside covering, with exoskeleton. Exoskeleton is outside bony, the outside structure that you use to give you your body's integrity, the skeletal, the building blocks, the infrastructure, the thing that you can build. What is that right word, man? They call it scaffold. A scaffold is a good example. Scaffold is what you put up around a building. If you want to build a building, you put up all the scaffold, and then it allows you to build a building. It holds it up. It allows you to get to it. And that's an example of an ectoskeleton, the scaffold that allows everything on the inside to function. Okay, think of a scaffold. What else? How's this one, guys? So if we get all these opportunities to get skin and coverings and all these different things, what about feeding? Check at this. Pretty cool, eh? It's going to happen a couple of times. So it allows us to feed. What is he using to feed? He's using his bones. He's using his ectoderm. He's using his muscles. Can you see on the inside here? You can actually see on the inside. So that's his pelvic fin. He's using it to push himself forward. He's using a buccal cavity. He's actually increasing the size of his cavity in his mouth. And by increasing the size of his cavity in his mouth, his buccal, they call it a buccal cavity. Yeah, you've also got cavities. By doing that, he's allowed to suck that fish in. Suck it in. Okay. Yeah. So feeding modifications, they're adapted for increased metabolic rates. If you can feed like this, guys, you've got a big advantage over things that have to go around trying to catch things with mucus. Huh? Mucus. You're going to try and suck the water through your body, and the mucus is going to catch some things like phytoplankton. Nah, stuff that idea. We're going to use the buccal cavity and muscles and bones, and we're going to catch our prey, attack it. Okay. Early chordates, they use pharynx and pharyngeal slits. Endostyle. Remember the endostyle? That's the glands that produce mucus, later developed into thyroid gland in higher organisms to help us with feeding. Water movement in some cases, still by cilia. And the mucus is developed or produced from the endostyle, and we use that for our digestion and absorption. Guys, even you today produce saliva, and that saliva helps to start the digestion process of your food. If you take a piece of bread and you mix saliva in your mouth, you put the bread in the saliva, the bread dissolves. The bread starts to break up. Your saliva does it already. Vertebrates have added muscles to the pharynx. You see what he's doing? His pharynx, they've added muscles to allow him to use that. And he has a powerful water pump that he can use by moving his muscles. So he can suck it in and get that movement flowing in. Suck it up. Okay, what else? How about digestive? Let me move this cursor away. Digestive modifications. What's happening here? Guys, can you see this little bulge of muscle? The bulge of muscle is pushing the food down. Peristalsis. Remember we spoke about that word yesterday? Peristalsis. Digestive modifications adapted for increased metabolic rates. Guys, we don't depend on mucus and cilia. Hopefully, going to just get that stuff to run down there, you know? No, we push it down. You understand that? Adapted for increased metabolic rates. Early chordates are simple. And for example, they had this movement of food with cilia, these little hairs that move it down. Vertebrates are more complex to accompany varied diets. So we want to get the food down. We're going to mix it with saliva, make a bolus in our mouths, and push it down by peristalsis. That's how it works. Accessory glands, and we also have things like the liver and the pancreas. Remember yesterday we spoke about hepatocytes, liver cells. They're precursors of the liver and the pancreas. And then we use the food to move down by muscles. Okay, these are very useful adaptations. Can you see it's starting to look more common? It's things that happen with us, things that you can relate to. I hope that's what you guys realize from now. What about respiratory? Can it help us with our respiration and breathing? Adapted for increased metabolic rates. Why? You always need to ask yourself, why does the breathing help us if it's increased respiration? It's all adaptations for metabolic rates. This is a picture of a carp, Saprinus carpia, common carp we find here. It doesn't belong in South Africa. It comes from Asia. Pretty good to eat though. You guys should be eating them. And what it doesn't have is it's a operculum plate. So this is a mutation. They didn't cut it off. It actually doesn't have that plate. And you can see how nice these gills look like on the inside. What do they look like? This is what the gills look like. He takes the water, he pushes the water past these developed pharyngeal plates, and as the water goes through them, there's lots of cells that are going to take the oxygen out the water. So, why did we develop these modifications? And they're adapted to help us increase our metabolism, because now we can get stuff into our blood, and it can help us. Okay. Early chordates use diffusion across the body walls, very simple. Vertebrates are highly vascularized. Vascularized means lots of blood vessels and structures inside the gills to help us. The pharynx is primarily used for respiration, and that's where the developments or the adaptations occur. And most fish have used that buccal cavity in their muscles to have a buccal pump, and they can pump the water over their gills. Have you ever heard that story that some sharks cannot stand still? They must always move. Their whole lives they must move. It's a theory that because some sharks don't have that buccal cavity to pump the water over their gills, they have to swim. And they have to ram the water over their gills. They open their mouth and they swim and they ram the water through their gills to keep the water flowing so they can take the oxygen out. Hectic, eh? Okay. Circulatory modifications. Now we're talking about the vascular system. Adapted for increased metabolic rates. Again, why? Helps us to survive. Early chordates most have no hearts and simple or single chambered hearts, like a pump. We call it a heart because it has that muscular and the pump. Most of your hearts, by the way, have got different types of skeletal muscles. They've got different types of muscles. So because of the muscles, we can tell that it's got a different function and it does different things. Can you believe it? Your heart muscles have to be strong and pump your whole life, whether you are exercising or not. Okay, praise the Lord, we have a very nice type of cardiac muscles which allows you to do that. Vertebrates, chambered hearts, erythrocytes, which is a type of blood cells. Hey? Erythrocytes is a type of red blood cells that allow the blood cells to start carrying things. The blood cells are carrying things. And hemoglobin. Who's heard of this word? Hemoglobin. That's very important because that is the feature that actually allows you to carry things like oxygen on your blood cells, your erythrocytes, that allow you to increase your metabolism and help you with your homeostasis. Homeostasis is your balance of your chemicals in your blood. Okay, your vascular system carries around your blood. Enhanced gas and food transport in your blood, your vascular system. That's what it does. Here's an example, guys, of how it works. So with our fishes, what we do is we have the water coming in to the mouth. The buccal cavity has a buccal pump, or they ram the water through their mouth. Goes past your pharyngeal adaptations, your gill slits, and you have this vascular system that runs past your gills, and it allows you to take gaseous exchange out of the water into your bloodstream, and then your heart pumps it. Pretty cool. Okay, these are called aortic arches. These arches. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about aortic arches when we talk about the fishes. Nervous system. So we have a shift from sessile. What does sessile mean again? When you're stuck on the ground. Remember the Urochordata, the Ascidiaceans, stuck on the ground. They grow there and they siphon water. So we've moved from that and filter feeding to active predation. Now we're going to look and hunt our food. We're going to follow you and we're going to catch it and eat you. Can you see this element of fear comes in here? Going to catch you and eat you. Okay, new nervous controls are important for locating and capturing prey. So that's one of the theories, that the reason why a lot of these sensory organs and your senses developed was so that you can see things to catch and eat. That's the idea. Early chordates had no brain or sensory organs. That's an example. You can see this is from Amphioxus, where you had this oral hood with some tentacles, very little developed. Just they had a dorsal nerve cord. That's what they had. Okay. So the nervous system modifications in vertebrates is based on this increase in cephalization. Cephalization means your development of your head region, your anterior region. Okay? Then you have this tripartite brain. Who's heard the word tripartite before? What's that? Tripartite alliance. We have a tripartite alliance in South Africa. What is a tripartite brain? It's a brain with 3 parts. Tripartite alliance, 3 parts. Guys, this is going to be the easiest question in your exam. What is a tripart brain? It's a brain that has 3 components. It has a forebrain, a midbrain, and a hindbrain. Okay, what is it similar like? COSATU. What is it? SCCP and the ANC. I would never ask you the political question, but they call themselves the tripartite alliance. Okay, developed from the anterior part of the nerve cord. That's how it's developed. Paired sensory organs that allow you for distance perception, eyes, inner ears, and your inner ear allows you to also compensate and manage your pressure, which allows you to use equilibrium. And because of the pressure and the equilibrium is balanced between inside and outside, so they can actually accommodate and use different pressures. Because think about this poor little amphioxus that can't do this. The amphioxus is one of the simpler chordates. He lands in the water by the sea, and there's no pressure, and he drifts down. As he drifts down, the pressure increases until it squishes him. You know that, until he's squished. Do you guys know that if you take an egg into the sea and you go down about 20 meters and you break the egg, you know that the egg yolk, because of the little membrane around the yolk, is in a perfect round ball. And it's hard. You can almost not touch it. It can't break because all the water around it, all the pressure is squeezing it all in the same direction. And it's like a rubber ball, and you can bump it like this and it can move around. Hey? Do you know that if you take a bottle, a 2-liter bottle, and you put air in it, hey? And you go down to 20, 30 meters, what happens? The whole bottle is squished. This bottle is squished because of the pressure. It squishes it into like a flat tube. I didn't do it myself, the pressure does it. Then if you're at the bottom of the sea, 20 meters or so deep, and you take your oxygen from your breathing tank and you put it in a bottle, so the bottle down 20 meters below there is full of air, and you let it go. What happens when it gets to the top? So I told you from the top, if you put air in a bottle in the top and you go down, it'll be squashed. So what happens if I put air down there and I let it go? It explodes. It looks like a golf ball and it explodes. Okay, that's what happens to the body of some of these organisms. If you cannot equalize, you cannot go through equilibrium. Even if a person goes too deep, they have to come back, and they have to come back slowly. They have to let their body equalize. Chemical receptors like taste and olfactory lobes help you to catch and eat prey. You know what you're eating. Some animals know exactly what it is because of the way it tastes. You taste certain things, I want to eat this. You taste certain things, I don't want to eat that. Ask my children. Vibration centers like the lateral line. Vibration centers like a lateral line of a fish. They can feel other things moving because it's giving off vibrations. And when the vibrations reach me, then I can tell what's moving around me. And then electroreceptors are the ability of a lot of organisms to emit an electric little pulse. And those electric currents help them identify and locate prey. Okay, things like dolphins, they can release this powerful electric current. And they can actually see what's happening in the world around them using electricity. That's amazing. Okay, let's look at the ancestral vertebrate. So there seems to be a link between chordates and vertebrate, and there's some of these prehistoric animals called the Picaea. The Picaea is an animal. This is actually a picture of what it looks like. That's all they've got, by the way. Picaea. So they tell everything about it based on the fossil records. Only the fossils, that's all they've got. They're extinct. They're fish-like, 5 centimeters long, V-shaped myomeres, muscles, resembles Amphioxus. It is a true cephalochordate. It is a chordate, but it does have some characteristics that make it look like a vertebrate. So there's a possibility that they're between a Amphioxus and vertebrates. They just look a little bit similar, but they're all extinct. Then there's another one, this Heikoula, okay, lanceolata. Lanceolata is a little bit easier. We use this long shape. Small fish-like fossil. They have a notochord, dorsal nerve cord, pharyngeal slits, Pharyngeal muscles, paired eyes and a brain. See, it's a little more developed, but they're extinct. Not considered a vertebrate, no cranium or distinct brain, but we're looking for these gaps. So there are some animals that look like they are in between the protochordates and the vertebrates. Okay. That's it for today. Do you have any questions? Let's turn the lights on. It's getting a little bit better though, hey?